Hey guys, Casual Crono here. I spent a few weeks playing around with my crystal team, and I think I've finally settled on a team that does pretty well, both for the short term and long term, with one substitution. I've decided that the Little Lily should be the main DPS. I've tried using her and Alma as DPS, and Alma does do respectable damage, reaction damage, but the Little Lily doesn't seem to have too much of a problem reaching the damage cap. So knowing that, I've kind of gone all in on her. So we have the Little Lily with the Elpis Sword, which gives 100% critical rating, the Dryad's Bangle for armor, which improves her critical strength damage, and I gave her a Power Plus Speed Halved badge to get her speed down some and to give her a huge power boost. Grasta-wise, she has what you would expect: 3 Power of Pains, 1 with Bullseye, 1 with the MP Consumption attack, and the third one is Gleaming Power of Pain, which improves both pain and crystal type damage. She also happens to have an extra 5 power from her Valor Chant Grasta. Skills: I've settled on Photon Messiah, which inflicts pain, as well as improves crystal type attack damage. It also improves based on how many shadow allies are in the front row. And you know me, I like to have one attack that I can spam, and I like to have a buff to basically make that attack stronger. And the buff I've chosen is Promised Land. Preemptive power for all party members. Physical and magic damage are increased based on max MP, so her physical damage is being improved. Because she's a sword-equipped ally, she gets an extra hit, and she's a shadow ally, so the buff turn, instead of being for 1 turn, lasts 5 turns, possibly 6. I haven't actually counted. I don't know if that's 1 turn plus 5 more, or just 5 total turns. Either way, it's more than 1 turn. Now, because of Alma, I have an Awakened Crystal stance when I start the fight. However, once it expires, I have no way to reapply it except for Benediction or swapping Alma into the back row and back into the front row, which is clunky. So for her 3rd skill, Benediction, and then for her 4th skill, which I've put in the very last slot so I don't accidentally hit it during like an AF bar, Sword and Heart. It's active only when she's in sword-wielding savior mode, which she is for the first 3 turns of the fight, so I can use the first 2 to beef her up and then use the 3rd turn for Sword and Heart. Once I use it, sword-wielding state ends, and Moke can reapply it. So I have Moke as one of the sidekicks, so I can basically sub him in, reapply it after he gets 5 charges, and then I can cast the spell again. Otherwise, I have Tetra pretty much the entire time. So that's kind of the logic with the Little Lily. So her support cast. Since she's improved with shadowed allies, I've played around with a few, and you can see those in my video, but I've settled on Melissa as the secondary. She has Glint Gale, which reduces crystal resistance by 50% and physical resistance by 30%, and it lasts 5 turns. So if she casts Glint Gale on the first turn, then for the next 4, the enemies, and this is on all enemies, their resistances are severely reduced. I tried using Eva with her resistance debuffs and everything, but this affects all enemies, first turn, lasts a while. I like that. And then I've noticed that Alma isn't the strongest tank in terms of taking damage. Other tanks seem to be able to reduce their damage down to like single digits or double digits, but whenever I use Alma, she still seems to take a couple thousand damage. So knowing that, Alloy Shield reduces or improves physical resistance by 30%. And then if we're fighting Shade or Thunder users, it also adds that type of resistance as well. So my 3rd choice for Melissa is Alloy Shield, so she can basically help Alma stay alive. For her spammable attack, I have chosen Hornet Hail. It affects a single enemy, it inflicts Crystal Break, And it is a stellar burst skill, so if I need to blow a stellar burst, then I can do that and have a nice attack. So those are 3 I've chosen for her. Her weapon is Singularity, which improves some of her skills. Since a lot of her skills are based on speed, I have the Stamped Ring because it gives speed according to light and shadow, not that she has that much shadow, and she has a speed badge. Grasta-wise, she's not really so much focused on DPS as she is on buffing and debuffing, so therefore I want to try and keep her alive. So she has 2 Grasta that each give 300 health. If I really felt like it, I could try and upgrade them with the HP ore, but you know, this one in particular requires a Jadeite, and I just didn't want to go that far. So I could give her an extra 600 health with ore, but for the right now, the base 600 is fine. And then she has Enhance if Max HP Crystal from the Intrana Another Dungeon. And as long as characters are at max health, they do an extra 10% damage. And Alma's reaction when she gets attacked is to heal the party. So Thille, more often than not, it will probably be at max health. As I mentioned, Alma doesn't seem to reduce damage quite as well as the other tanks. So Mariel has the Praying skill, Oratio Virtuous and Oratio Salutis, and basically it gives everyone a shield for about 2,000 health and reduces their damage taken by 50%. So whichever prayer I use can keep Alma alive a little easier. Virtuous is the attack one, it improves type attack by 50%. Salutis is the defensive one. If there's knockbacks involved, things like that, I can use that one instead and try to prevent some of the knockbacks. It also reduces type resistance, whereas Oratio Virtuous does not. So I can choose, depending on what attack is about to come up, I can maybe choose to switch to a different prayer. They're preemptive, so they should go before the attack. And then her spammable attack during an AF bar is a la Aurea. It's a 5-hit crystal attack, so it should keep the AF bar going pretty well. It also restores health, so that's nice. Gear-wise, I want her to stay alive, and I want her to have high health. That's because that shield, when she's praying, is based on Mariel's max health. So the higher it is, the easier it is for me to reach the 2,000 cap shield. So she has a weapon that reduces her MP consumption, gives her some regen. It happens to be one of those OOPA arts weapons. She has the Elpis necklace, which improves her health. And she has the HP plus speed halved badge. Her prayers are preemptive, so it doesn't really matter what her speed is. Really the only thing that hurts is during an AF bar, she doesn't go quite as fast because she doesn't have a high speed. But she does gain 2,000 extra health from that. Grasta-wise, she has 3 Grasta, each one with a base of 300 health, each one with an ore upgrade of 300 health, so she gets 1,800 health from Grasta. She also happens to have the MP consumption health, MP consumption Grasta, not health. And she does have the self-healing skill, but she doesn't really use it. So that's how I built Mariel. Alma, I have tried to build as strong of a tank as possible. One of my users on the channel mentioned that the Lollipopper would be a great bow to use for Alma, and I hadn't really thought about it. I knew it gave health, but it also gives physical resistance. So I very quickly leveled it up to 10, spent a couple of green keys running Toto's Dreamland over and over to get the materials for it. And it does have the ability to be upgraded further with the blacksmith in the mech world. I don't have the supplies for that, but I can give her an extra 1,000 health and an extra hold ground once that is upgraded. So eventually she should get to about 11,000 health. To help with that health, I have 3 ore with 300 health, each one upgraded with the HP ore. If I ran Omegapolis a lot and bought the Light Shadow it would go up even further because her shadow's over 50, so the light shadow HP ore is the better upgrade. It will give her more health. I just don't have enough items to buy 3 of those quite yet. So those are her 3. She does have an MP consumption in there, and she does have her first Valor Chant Grasta for an extra 5 power and speed. Her speed is 156. It's about the same as Thille Lily's, which means occasionally she'll go before Thille Lily, and occasionally Thille Lily will go before her. As far as gear, she has the Elpis ring, which improves her health, and she has an HP plus speed halved badge. So that's how I got to the almost 10,000 health. The skills I've chosen for her to spam during an AF bar is Luster Glare. It also does a 3 stacks of Crystal Break. It can change her attack based on the target's weak point, and it does give the party, for 3 moves, a type attack improvement of 50%. So if I'm spamming that, every single time it's her turn, she'll give another 3 moves, another 50%. So since she's a tank, she needs to be able to create rage. So she has the refraction bullet for that, inflicts rage, improves party's type resistance, and it gives her the counterattack for 3 turns, among other things. I have Kaleidoscope just so I could give another character Barrier Pierce if I need to. I haven't really worked that in too much yet, but it also has the ability to revive hurt allies. And I know I have Tetra in the group, but I kind of like just having a second way to revive people if I need to. And then she had room for a 4th skill, and I went ahead and threw in Geist Nebula because it reduces the enemy's power and intellect by 15%. So it does make incoming damage a little bit less. Not a whole lot, but I figure any little bit helps. So those are the main 4. Alma and Melissa and Thille Lily are nowhere near level 100, so they will eventually grow a little bit in stats as well. For the background, Thille Lily is a sweet tooth, a member of the clergy, West, Sword, and Crystal. It just so happens if you have Melina, she has Sweet Tooth, West, and Clergy. So she can hold all of the personality Grastas that would help Thille Lily, and each one improves Thille Lily's damage 25%. Not additive necessarily, but still, improvement is improvement. So Melina is holding 3 personality Grasta that will boost Thille Lily. The Clergy one also technically boosts Mariel. So that means the only thing left, Thille Lily is a sword user. I need a sword user in the background. So I chose Annabelle. Technically, any sword user could work, so it doesn't have to be Annabelle. She's holding Power of Crystal Sword. She's holding Power of Offense, which comes from the one of the most recent trials, Extreme Mode. As long as Crystal Stance is active, the party's damage goes up by 15%. And then, as long as Thille Lily keeps max health, her damage increases by 30%. And assuming that the weak point Kaleidoscope doesn't change type attacks and things like that, Thille Lily should always do an extra 30% because of Power of Crystal. So those are the 3 that I've chosen for Annabelle. So this really, really, really boosts Thille Lily, particularly when she is at max health. Sidekick-wise, Tetra with the Soothing Bell, and Moke, and I gave Moke Pandora's Can. Pandora's Can, every so often, will add an extra charge. So my logic with this was, hopefully if I need to use Sword and Heart more than once, occasionally Moke will get it a little bit sooner than expected. I've only been able to get up to level 7. I don't have the items to go all the way to level 10, so I really don't know how helpful it is, but he's a sub-sidekick. I really don't know what else to give him that would be extremely helpful. So, this is my Thille Lily team. and we are going to test it out on a few things right now. The first test is obviously against the dummy. We want to see how the skills all interact. So on turn 1, we need to set pain, and that's the purpose of Photon Messiah. We need to reduce crystal resistance and physical resistance, so we're going to Glint Gale. We're going to boost the team's attack with a ratio virtuous, and we need to inflict rage. Now obviously the dummy is not going to attack us, but this would be what we would do in a real fight. Remember that we have just a few turns of Awakened Crystal Zone and a few turns of sword-wielding Savior State. If you need to, you can click the status bar and see Sword-wielding Savior, 2 turns left. After 2 turns, I can no longer use Sword and Heart without bringing Moke out. So this is the first of those 2 turns. I'm going to buff the party. At this point, I'm not sure really if it matters for Melissa. I could Hornet Hail or buff up the team, and let's just say I'm fighting a real boss, so let's go ahead and buff up physical resistance. She's praying, and that lasts until she actually takes damage or 5 turns, so at this point all she can do is attack. And I could Luster Glare, or I could reduce power. Luster Glare seems to be fairly strong, so I've been using it more often for the second round. So there's the buff, defensive buff, Luster Glare, and attack. This is the final turn of sword-wielding Savior State, so this would be the turn to cast Sword and Heart. I could also blow the AF bar, work in a few more attacks, and then cast Sword and Heart. That would allow me to have Crystal Break here and Crystal Break with Hornet Hail. But, you know, this is just a test dummy, so we're going to Sword and Heart. We will Hornet Hail. Melissa's speed is faster than everyone's, so we should get 3 Crystal Break stacks going. To avoid using up the Crystal Break stacks, I'm going to have her go ahead and pray again. And we're going to go ahead and Luster Glare. That way, just in case Alma goes before Thille Lily, since their speeds are about the same, I'll still have Crystal Break stacks when Sword and Heart triggers. There's Crystal Break. Sword and Heart. And the dummy is dead. I'm not sure if you could see the numbers because they went pretty fast, but it looked like she did about 1.3 to 1.6 billion per attack. And she hits 4 times, possibly 5 since we cast that skill that gives the extra attack for sword users. So that would be anywhere from about 5 to 7 billion damage in one swing. So I like those numbers. That 5 to 7 billion damage is also a barrier piercing attack. So that's kind of why I've set up the team the way it is. Now I can't do that attack again until Moke reenacts or Reenables sword-wielding Savior State. So that's one downside to this team. We have our team set. Let's go try it out on some things. Let's test this team on the Uquaji Clan, assuming that it's not null to crystal.
Get back, Hom!
2 resists, but no immunities. Okay, we'll give that a whirl. We're going to start off the bat, blow in the AF bar. We're going to do Promised Land, Glint Gale, Erasio, and Refraction, all of the 2s, and then just spam 1. And if I have time, I will attempt to Sword in Heart towards the end of the AF bar. Alright, let's sword in heart. It looks like the Uquaji Clan's already dead. Defeated.
I was pretty good, wasn't I?
That was a one-turn Uquaji Clan kill. With 2 resists. With a complete annihilation of the Uquaji team, I wanted to fight a boss with a barrier. And one of them that I use a lot as an example is Mysterious Chaos Ogre Hard. And again, just to prove that I don't have any defenses really boosted of any kind, that's all I got. So we have our Thille team, and we are going to fight a boss that has a barrier. Now the catch with this particular boss is the barrier, once I attack it and he drops down to 10% health, he doesn't die, he has an HP stopper, and at that point sword wielding state will have ended because I used it to pierce the barrier. So I still have to down him by 10% without using sword and heart. So we're going to see if we can do that. We have Tetra for heals, and we're going to do the first turn just like we did with the test dummy. We're going to set pain. We're going to reduce physical and crystal resistance. We're going to go ahead and get a prayer going, and we'll just go ahead and stick with the offensive one, Oratio Virtuous, and we're going to get the rage going. So our resistances are there. Alma does not die pretty much the first 2 turns of the battle. It doesn't seem to matter how much damage she takes, just her natural skill set gives her kind of like multiple hold grounds. So that's why she didn't die. And she's still pretty hyperactive. So she has hold ground while in the guard state. This is the last turn of that. Her power, speed, and intellect also go up. So if you're trying to manipulate speed, you do have to factor that in as well. So, knowing that she can't die, and knowing that this is raged, if he attacks, all attacks are going to go to Alma again. Anyway, Promised Land for the boost. We're going to Alloy Shield for the defenses. We're going to attack. And we're going to Luster Glare. Same pretty much as the test dummy. Now turn 3, he's knocked Alma out of the picture, but I have to use Sword and Heart. So we're going to use Sword and Heart, we're going to get Alma back in the front line, we're going to go ahead and attack, and I don't think he clears buffs, so we're just going to inflict Elemental Break. In fact, if we inflict Elemental Break, well, you know what, we're going to Sword and Heart and just find out what happens. So, here we go. There's the Elemental Break. You saw 2 billion a few times, and I think a 1 billion. So, we did, I don't know, probably about 7 billion on this boss, and he hit the HP stopper. Now, the catch is, we can't use Sword and Heart again. Moke doesn't have enough charges. I believe he needs 5. Yep. So, what we can do though, he has 12 stacks left of his barrier before he can start doing damage, and we have a full AF bar. We are not in Crystal Zone, so that's where this Benediction comes in. So we're going to blow the AF bar, she's going to hit Benediction, and then from that point forward, spam Hornet Hail, a la Aurea. Right there is going to be 5 stacks of the barrier gone. Let's see, we're not cheering either, so we might cast Oratio Virtuous first and then a la Aurea. And she's just going to spam Luster Glare. Once we do Benediction, then we can either spam, we can hit Promised Land if the AF bar is still looking good, and then Photon Messiah, or we can just switch to Photon Messiah. So the debuffs are all still there, so we're good there. So we're going to do 3, 1, 2, 1, then Promised Land, and then 1, 1, 1. And then from that point forward, just all ones. So 3, 1, 2, 1. 3, 1, 2, 1, 2. Spam, spam, spam 1 from this point forward. The shield is now gone, so we'll start seeing damage again. The boss, we've already used up the last 10%. You can see his health bar is gone. So let's work in a burst. This is how bursts work. When you hit it, everything pauses. If you click burst, whatever skill is there is going to be used. Now, Sword and Heart shows up here, however, she's not in sword wielding state. So, now, it does say if a sidekick is active, it restores 5 charges. However, it won't activate outside of sword wielding savior state. So if I was in sword wielding savior state, I could blow this right now, and then immediately Moke would have 5 charges in order to reactivate it. So that is one strategy for some bosses. However, right now, the only ones I can choose are those 3, so let's just do Photon Messiah. Hornet Hail has, let's see, it will deploy the zone that matches the highest number of type personalities and so forth, so we can use this one. And she can use Kaleidoscope. I could use it, you'll notice Kaleidoscope gives Barrier Pierce, so if I had blown the burst bar right away, I could Kaleidoscope any one of these characters and give them Barrier Piercing for 3 attacks. So it also grants link to all the party members and so forth. So let's just go ahead and Kaleidoscope, and we're going to hit burst.
Our swords stand united and pure.
Now the second they're done, the AF bar will continue, so be ready to keep spamming. And here we go. So if you use a burst during an AF bar, just don't forget that the AF bar still exists. So we just did 108 million damage during that little burst, which was enough to take him down pretty easily. Another boss I'd like to showcase is Warped Ancestor Gaishin Hard. Alright, typical first round. We're going to set pain. We're going to reduce resistances. We're going to create shields and buff up the team and get rage going.
Alakazam! Slice.
Now you'll notice that some of the attacks are healing him a little bit. Alma does magic damage and it absorbs magic. It also absorbs earth and thunder, I think. So I think Tetra's attack back there is thunder. Anyway, Promised Land. Let's get the defenses going a little bit. And see what happens. Fortunately, because Alma is stunned, she's not doing the reaction damage. Alright, third turn. We have to use Sword and Heart. So we're going to do that. We're going to inflict a break. We're going to sing again, since she took damage. She's no longer, not sing, pray. And Alma is still stunned.
Alakazam!
There's praying, there's the crystal break. Sword and Heart. The team is healed, Alma is back.
No problem.
And we can switch, and you'll notice that Moke can do his thing. So we can re-enter sword-wielding savior state right now. And then swap back to Tetra for the heals. So now, she has 3 turns of sword-wielding savior state. Promised Land buff is still good, but we no longer have the Crystal Zone, so we're going to go ahead and set that this turn. We're going to... Glint Gale is for 5 turns. Alloy Shield is only for 3, so we could go ahead and Alloy Shield again. Erasio Virtuous, because again, we've lost the Prane. And let's see, does it still have Rage? Yes, so we could Luster Glare. And let's just go ahead and Refaction Bullet again, just in case. It does also improve the party's type resistance. Alright. It has Pain. We could do Sword and Heart right now. We have a full AF bar, so that gives us a few more options. So let's Lunatic and have some fun. We have 2 turns left. So Lunatic, let's go ahead and re-Glint Gale. We're going to pray with Oratio Salutis, improve resistances a little bit. And we're going to reduce its power a little bit.
Alakazam!
So we're playing a little bit on the defensive side. Alright, you'll notice that while the team didn't take any major damage, it did break the zone and break the Prane. This is the final turn of sword-wielding savior state. We have a full AF bar, and we have a burst bar ready to go. So we are going to blow the AF bar. We're going to be sure to hit Benediction. We still have Pain. So we'll do Benediction, Hornet Hail, Virtuous, and Refraction Bullet. So I think we'll just go ahead and let's do 3, 3, 2, and 2. Then, depending on, we'll go ahead and do Promised Land. And then 1, 1, 1. And then we're going to hit the Burst. And that way Moke will be ready to put her in another sword-wielding savior state. So 3, 3, 2, 2 will be our setup. And then 2. And then we can burst. 3, 3, 2, 2, 2, burst. Sword and Heart, Hornet, and let's go ahead and Luster Glare.
Feel the power of Aurum alchemy.
We've got down to the next HP stopper. We could use this time to beef up defenses. Oh, we got a choice. I haven't seen that in a while. She takes a long time to talk, so let's use you.
The sword is held, not by God, but in our hearts and dreams. Its edge entrusted to the sword-wielding savior. Together, we will thwart evil's misbehavior.
I guess she takes a while to talk too.
And that's the end of your schemes.
So he's mad now. We broke through the next HP stopper. We have an awakened crystal zone. And we are not in sword-wielding savior state. However, Moke. Switch back to Tetra. And now we are in sword-wielding savior state for 3 turns. So I'm thinking, let's see, do we still have pain? Yes. I'm thinking we should just go ahead and sword and heart now and try and finish this up. So we will inflict elemental break. Are we praying? I think we were praying. We are not praying. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and pray. And for her, we'll just go ahead and Luster Glare. It's still in rage. So, and does she have counter? She does still have counter attack. All right, let's see if the final sword and heart will take this guy down.
Alakazam!
There you go. So that is an example of how we can effectively use the burst to allow Moke to throw her right back in sword-wielding state for a longer type of fight. My final thoughts on this team: I do enjoy it. I wish there was a way to make Alma a little more bulky and be able to survive better. I see Soira and I see Radius just surviving everything and reducing damage down to just about nothing. And Alma hasn't quite reached that point yet, so still working on her. I mean, these characters are all kind of newish. They've all been released really in just the past 2.5 months. But in short, Thille Lily sets pain and does massive barrier-piercing damage. And then we use Moke to re-enable that barrier-piercing damage. We have Melissa as a buffer and debuffer. We have Mariel to help with survivability. Both of them are trying to boost Alma's defenses. Alma herself, for the first 2 turns, really can't die. And I'm still working to improve the Lollipopper even further and eventually swapping out the HP ores with the Light Shadow HP ores. That should help a little bit. Probably get her up to around 11,000 health that way. And then my Grasta holders in the background are all designed for Thille Lily. You'll notice in that final fight that the Grasta that dealt with max HP was not in effect. Because of that curse, she was constantly taking damage at the start of the fight. So she was not getting the boost from that. She didn't get the enhanced max HP crystal buff either. And I had to reapply Mariel's praying a whole lot because she was constantly taking damage, which was breaking her prayer. But overall, the team was effective. It was quick. Thille does absolutely insane amounts of damage. And if there aren't HP stoppers in the way, I'm reasonably confident she could one-shot just about anything in the game currently right now. I don't know of many things that have over 6-7 billion in health at the moment. And that's what she can pump out. I hope this video helps you to design your own team. Remember that you don't have to have Annabelle. Any character that's a sword user could be back here. You could have Aldo, anyone else. And Melina was really great for the fact that she has the same 3 personalities, Sweet Tooth, Clergy, and West, that Thille did. So she's a very good complement for the personality Grasta. But there are many other characters that have 2 of those 3. So it's not like Melina is absolutely required either. In fact, Mariel, if you want to sacrifice a little bit of her health, she is a member of the Clergy. So she could hold the Clergy Grasta instead, if you can find someone that's a Sweet Tooth and West person back here. But anyway, this is the Crystal team I'm going to run with for now. I will probably continue making tweaks to it like I do my other teams. But I hope this helps you if you happen to be lucky enough to have both Thille ES and Alma AS and a good support group for them. So, Casual Crono, signing out.